2, 1.
Boom! And welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Lucky Duck. Get on, check out the new Lucky Duck A-frame blinds. Bigger, better, stronger. Check them out at Lucky Duck Decoys. All right, Andy.
Yes, sir.
Hate to say this, y'all. I am Jeff Stanfield with my liberal son, Andy Shaver. Andy is the card-carrying kid for Ben & Jerry's ice cream now.
It's delicious. Delicious and probably nutritious.
Andy has said that he is now... Are you boycotting the NFL? Because you just brung that up today.
No, you're just a hypocrite.
I'm a hypocrite because I like the NFL. Is that what you're saying?
No, you're a hypocrite because you drugged me through shards of glass for enjoying a scoop of Ben & Jerry's ice cream because of their quote-unquote liberal policies and introducing boys into girls sports. And
that's not quote-unquote. It is the truth.
And now several NFL teams are allowing boys to take a girl's spot on the cheerleading sidelines. So enjoy your NFL, Jeff. I will enjoy my ice cream.
Women have the right to ogle hardboard abs and stuff on guys on the sidelines, just like we check out the cuties. I personally wouldn't have male cheerleaders. I'd have all female cheerleaders. But that's your hill you want to die on because you don't think men should be cheerleaders either.
No, I don't.
You do not sound like a very good liberal. You sound a little sexist there, Andy. I'm kind of ashamed by you. With us today from Kentucky. It's not a football state. It is a basketball state. Our bourbon expert from Shelbyville, Kentucky, Mr. Dylan Livers. Dylan, how are you doing, sir?
Doing well. How y'all doing today?
Good. I like that old vintage Coors sign behind you. That's pretty badass.
And it still works.
My wife's uncle, he since he passed, he collected a bunch of like vintage beer stuff, and I got that. Clock part works. I need to work on the light ballast in it to get it back, but it works so far. Tells the time anyway.
The new signs that are coming out. DU's got a brand new fluorescent. I'm assuming we're going to get a new light every year now. I think that stuff's really cool because it's such a throwback. But I like the old Coors behind you. So are you a beer guy or a bourbon guy?
Well, it's the summertime right now, so beer's kind of my thing. But once that first cold north wind hits, it's pretty well over to bourbon until springtime.
That's the thing is like I can't drink bourbon in the summertime. It's too hot outside, and even when I'm grilling, occasionally I'll have a little bit of bourbon, but I don't know. It's just too hot.
Yeah, I mean, there's cocktails for that, that you can do, but for the most part, man, it's awfully hard to beat. You get done mowing the lawn, it's 85 degrees, but 100% humidity, and old Yellow Jacket's pretty nice after you get done with the lawn.
I like the Leinenkugel Summer Shanty. That used to be my jam. I'd mow, and then I'd sit down and have that Summer Shanty. It's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Is
that the one that's got the lemons in it?
Yeah.
That's a big beer for them. They're the oldest distiller or oldest brewery in America, aren't they?
You're getting me lying.
They were. I believe that the original Liney's brewery shut down, but I believe that Yuengling is the oldest.
Yeah, Yuengling is. It's not Leinenkugel's, it's Yuengling. Leinenkugel's in Wisconsin, right?
Yep.
Correct.
Yep. Have you ever had Point beer?
Point, like spelled Pointe?
Yeah, they make it in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Because back in the day, a lot of towns had their own breweries, local breweries, not like the craft beers, but just regular beer. And anyway, Stevens Point had Point beer, and I drank the first time I had it was like in the 80s, late 80s. We went up north fishing, and then Andy had someone bring it to you. Is that right? And and Andy thought it was pretty tasty until he had it the second time, and it wasn't as near as good the second time as it was the first time.
It's fine.
Law of diminishing returns, I guess.
No, it's okay. I hadn't had it in a long time, so I bet it would be good again.
But you don't drink beer much.
I don't drink anything much. I'm
a simple guy. Beer, ice, salt, lime, and that's it. I like my beer over ice, and if we go Mexican food, I really love it, but especially in the summertime. Dressed cup with some lime slop on it, with some salt. Throw that thing in lime. Squirt a little bit of lime juice in it, and pour my beer over the ice. Man, it's good in the summertime.
Sounds refreshing.
Yeah, Jeff's all about the foo-foo. So before we get into a whole bunch of other stuff, what is so if you had to put your holy grail of bourbon, what would that bottle be?
Ooh. Like most affordable, or like that you'll never see it again?
Give me both. Give me the one that people can find
in your bucket list,
and then give me the one that if you see it on a shelf, you're like, okay, you're coming home with me.
Yeah, one that people can find pretty often. Golly, that's hard to say. I really like the Four Roses Small Batch Select. You can normally find that pretty often.
Yep.
And also same old with regular old Buffalo Trace. It's for the money. It is a hard bourbon to beat, really. But then like the one like Holy Grail, if I ever saw it out in public, kind of deal. I really like the Eagle Rare 17, especially the ones made after 2018, where they went from 90 to 101 proof. It just completely changed the ball game with that bourbon. It was good beforehand, but that 101 proof just added like a better texture and a better body to that bourbon.
Okay, so you're a bourbon nerd. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it.
Yeah, a little.
How do you get more proof?
So proof, it really just depends on how it comes out of the barrel and how it's processed. So like you'll look at different bottles. So like a Four Roses Yellow Label is 80 proof, Basil Hayden's is 80 proof. And then you can see all the way up to the barrel proofs and the bottled in bonds and stuff where they're 100 proof plus. And it's really just how much water is added to it after it's dumped out of the barrel.
I got you. So it's not as that makes sense. Now, what does bottled in bond mean? Because I see more and more of that on Bourbon Instagram or Bourbon Talk.
Yeah, so what the Bottled in Bond Act is very similar. Are you familiar with the book The Jungle by Upton Sinclair about the meatpacking industry in Chicago?
No, sir.
It was about kind of like the conditions of that back in the day and how unclean and terrible it was.
Okay.
So the Bottled in Bond Act was actually introduced back, I believe it was in the 1880s, as kind of a purity standard that was pushed forward by Dr. Crow. So if you've ever seen Old Crow bourbon, and E.H. Taylor himself were hard pushing for this, because what was happening is a lot of these rectifiers, not all of them, but some of them were buying them and they were putting like tobacco spit in them to make it darker and nitric acid to give it more burn. And not only was it making people sick, it was killing them. And so what the Bottled in Bond Act did is it said underneath this strip stamp, this is what we were saying. This is exactly what it is. So it's bourbon that's made from a single distillery in one season. So whether it be January to June or July to December. And then it had to be 100 proof. And did I say already that it was 4 years old?
No, sir.
Yeah, so those were the main requirements. So when it's underneath that strip stamp, it's saying that is that's what's underneath it. So it's a purity standard, more or less.
So why is that? Is that important to? I mean, so basically that was before the FDA and these companies were like, "Hey, we're gonna put our stamp on it and let customers know that what you're buying is what you're getting." Is that still relevant today, or is that just kind of something that people like to put on it to maybe drive up the price or, whatever?
Well, it's kind of to pay homage to it a little bit. And then it also kind of just tells you you're going to get what you're going to get here. And I mean, if you know all that information going into it, you can already look at it and say, oh, Bottled in Bond, well, this is at least 4 years old. It's 100 proof. It's from one distillery, from one season in a bonded warehouse. Like, yeah, okay, this is legit stuff.
Right. Okay, so for people, go ahead and explain what it is that you do, because we kind of skipped over that part.
Well, so I currently am in distillery consulting. My business is called Oak and Spirit Consulting. I basically go and do everything from helping distilleries large and small. It could be, just a mom and pop operation, all the way up to, the biggest macro distillery that you've seen. But helping with efficiency and troubleshooting, also helping them establish quality if need be, grain procurement if need be, grain quality, research and development. I can also help with like if they want to establish an experimental program, I could do that. I could help them manage their recipes and write new recipes, warehouse experimentation and research. And then I could also do advisory and master distiller services. So That's kind of what I offer in a nutshell. But my background, I was in quality and frontline distillery operation at Buffalo Trace for 7 years, and then at Four Roses for 3.5.
Okay, so you were with the big boys then.
Yes, sir.
When were you working for Buffalo Trace?
2014 until 2021. And there I started as a lab tech. It's really kind of a funny story how it all kind of played out. But yeah, lab tech, and then I ended up moving over to the distillery in 2017. 2016 or 2017. I'll have to look back. But I moved over there and then really got inundated in loving the process of actually making whiskey. And then I started myself over the experimental side of it, kind of managing the experimental program and also what's called Warehouse X over there as well. So that really kind of fueled my fire, so to say, to really be passionate about this.
What is Warehouse X at Buffalo Trace?
So Warehouse X was developed, I don't know, are you familiar with the Single Oak Project?
No, I don't think I am.
Okay, so what it was is Ronnie Eddins from Buffalo Trace wanted to experiment with the idea that, you know, we're seeing differences in barrels because a single barrel could be made from the same lot. You know, everything is the same about it, and they're aged right next to one another with the same whiskey in it, and the two barrels are completely different. So what it was about a 20-year experiment that Ronnie did from a grove of trees in the Ozarks of Missouri, and he was collecting trees from the bottom of the hill, the middle of the hill, the top of the hill. They're making barrels from the wood from the top, the middle, and the bottom of the trees. They were looking for a coarse grain versus a fine grain. And then whenever they were curing the wood, it was for 6, 12, 18, 24, 36, whatever months for curing the wood. And they did a bunch of proof experiments with that. And what they were starting to try to find is what are we finding in the key differences between all these factors that go into aging whiskey. So that kind of was the first little bit of Warehouse X. The next one was there were straight line winds that hit Buffalo Trace, and it ripped the roof off of Warehouse C. Then it left some barrels exposed at the top while they were repairing it. Once they repaired it, they drew samples out of those barrels and saw it was just drastically different. Well, Harlan and team were kind of contemplating, well, what contributed to that? Because there's a lot of factors there of sunlight, you had wind, you had barometric pressure, you had humidity, you had temperature swings. And so what Warehouse X is 6 chambers, 5 or 6, 5 chambers of where we can control every aspect of what you're wanting to see in aging. And we would look at that in a 3-year span or more.
So everything's climate controlled. This is just not a barn. This is a climate controlled barn, or is it not climate controlled?
Yeah, so it's a warehouse, but it has individual chambers where we can manipulate the individual chambers to a specific variable. So like we wanted no light in this one, but we wanted it to match outside temperature. Well, we could do that. You know, we wanted this one to be full light and, you know, match the outside temperature. Then the breezeway was the control. So it's just going to get everything that it's going to get. And you can just vary any kind of variable inside of that and see what the whiskey did chemically and through taste and smell.
I never thought about weather as being a variable in that ever. I just figured you'd store it and didn't think much of it. But when you have a really cold winter, that's going to affect it different than a warm winter. So, so they're not sitting in a 72-degree room every day.
No. And Jeff, I know you've been to Kentucky before. Andy, have you?
Yeah, I've been through, but I hadn't been to any of the distilleries.
I haven't been to a distillery either, and that's one thing I want to do that I have not done yet.
Yeah, I mean, for one, come visit. It's nice, especially kind of the springtime whenever the horse races are going on. Pretty cool time. But Kentucky has a very big gambit of temperatures to where we can get pretty cold. I think this past year, we got down to a couple nights there that were like in the negative single digits, pushing on the negative double digits. And then in the summertime, you know, we can hit triple digits with a ton of humidity. And so those temperature swings is what's going to help with your barrel impartation to your whiskey and kind of giving the wood flavor to the white whiskey itself.
So which one? So like of all the different variables, I mean, you're just kind of mad scientist. You're just playing the mad scientist. All this, like, which were the ones that you thought produced the best results?
Well, so what we had published, and I was only there for 7 years of it. This is supposed to be like a 30-year experiment.
Right.
So I might even be retired, dead, gone, wherever we're going to be before this even is complete. And we say this is what we have found. But so far, temperature swing has been the most, where you can see the most barrel activity.
So you take a 7-year, I'm not a drinker. Andy's a whole lot more of a bourbon guy than I am. 7-year-old whiskey, that's kind of the standard. Am I right, or am I way off on that?
It depends. It depends on the company. I would say 4 to 6 is your typical baseline.
Okay. In a 4 to 6 year temperature, you're going to see different temperatures because every winter is going to be different and every summer is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Your average bottle of whiskey, a 5-year bottle of whiskey, let's say Eagle Rare or whatever. You're at Buffalo Trace. Buffalo Trace. You get your Buffalo Trace. Is there that much much taste difference each year? Because each year's got different variables in it.
Well, so that's kind of the beauty of blending. Because whenever you have a really good blender, I was very blessed to learn from a very good one at Sazerac, is he's able to understand how each warehouse ages bourbon through the years and is able to pull from certain areas of the different warehouses to be able to blend to make everything consistent year to year, which, some people want that in a bourbon where it's, very dead consistent every single time. But then there's sometimes that, you want something a little different. And that would be like a single barrel, that you would want something that might be, just a little different every time.
So single barrel, you're going to get a different taste every time you get a bottle of single barrel, unless it come out of that same barrel.
Yep.
Okay. So
when you see a single barrel whiskey, it means it came from that one barrel. There's nothing else that's added to it besides water. If it's cut down to, 93, 86, whatever proof it may be. Besides that, I mean, it's just coming from that one barrel. So you're going to see what that barrel did to that whiskey when it did its life cycle and its aging.
I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I'm going to give Andy a shot at this too. Do you know what the number one selling bourbon is in the U.S.?
No.
U.S., I believe it's still Jim Beam.
It's Maker's Mark. Just read it.
Really? Maker's. All right. And so my whole family is from Loretta. So that's really cool to know.
I'm a Maker's guy. If I drink, that's something. Makers are Crown because I'm just not I don't drink a lot of whiskey.
Well, you mix it too.
And I mix it. I'm not damn sure not drinking it on ice. I want some. Even if you offered me what's it, Pappy?
Yeah.
I'm like, put that on some Coca-Cola. Hell, everybody, the bourbon guys would be like, shit, but that's the way I am. But it's the number one selling whiskey due to this poll I just read. Mm-hmm. That's all blended whiskey, right? So you're getting the same bottle of Makers just about year in and year out?
Yeah, so it's not a blended whiskey. It's a bourbon, but it's a batch bourbon or small batch. So it's bunch of barrels from different areas because they have a pretty large portfolio of warehouses that's in Loretta and surrounding areas.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just kind of spitballing as to why it might be the top selling. Do you think it's because, I think it's kind of got that Tito's vibe in vodka where it's a decent price, but you feel kind of fancy buying it?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, and I was laughing at this as a kid because their ad campaign was "It tastes expensive and is" was the name of it for a little bit. But yeah, Makers has always kind of had the handmade idea behind it. The Samuels family, whenever they got a hold of the recipe, they built it from the ground up, and, it's hand-dipped wax. The wax is going to do what it's going to do. The Maker's Mark in the middle, the SIV, it was done after pewter smiths, when they put their mark on stuff. So it's a really cool history and pretty good bourbon. I've got good friends that work down there, and, they're churning it out every day and doing it as good as they know how to do it.
Can you imagine being the lady? It's like, what's your mama do? She's a wax person at Makers. Same lady's been dipping a bottle probably there for 40, because they hand dip them, right?
It's funny you say that. My great-grandmother dipped bottles there for 40 years.
That's crazy. I mean, you think about that. That's cool. But that's not something you think of what'd your grandma do? She was a wax dipper at Maker's Mark. And you're like, that's pretty cool. I never thought about that. That's a regular.
Somebody's got to do it.
Nobody thinks about the jobs in this country, like the guy that builds barrels for Jack Daniels and all the whiskey companies. I'm assuming, I don't know a person that makes a barrel. I'm assuming you know a bunch of people that work for barrel manufacturers where you live at.
Yeah, one of my cousins, he just recently retired, and now he's the one that drives the tour bus at Maker's Mark, but he worked for Independent Stave, and they're one of the largest barrel producers in the United States. Right there in Lebanon, Kentucky. And what will blow your mind if you ever do come to bourbon country is go on that tour and you'll understand that they still build these by hand every day and they're paid by the barrel. So they are churning them out.
I've got 2 of them here. I need a couple more. I had Josh Moore that worked, not Josh Moore that worked for me, Logan Landers that worked for me. His mom works somewhere in that area. And he brought me a couple of barrels, and one of them's a sink in our bathroom that we had custom made into a sink at our house. And then another one's here, and I'd like to have a couple more of them. They're nice. You don't see them here. Where you're at, they probably sell them on the side of the road everywhere you go.
Yeah, it really depends where you go. Sometimes they get a little stingy, but most of the time, if you go to most distilleries, it'd be like, hey, do you have any used barrels for sale? I would say about 70% of the time they'll say yeah. And if you spend any time in central Kentucky, you're going to find a barrel.
Now, here's my dumb question. Barrel has one use and that's it?
So for bourbon, yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, so that is actually a government requirement. In 1964, it was passed down by Congress that bourbon was going to be the spirit of the United States. And it actually gave laws to that it had to be at least, well, for one, it had to be made in the United States, had to be made of 51% corn or more. It cannot be distilled over 160 proof. It cannot be barreled at more than 125. When you bottle it, it can't be bottled at under 80 proof, and there can't be any additives or any kind of additives to it at all. And then it also had to be a new charred oak. So not specific to white oak, even though that's the majority of what's used. But it has to be a new oak cask. So once it's done through once, it goes somewhere else, whether that be Canadian whiskey, tequila,
brandy.
You'll see brandy, rum. I mean, there's even gin companies that use it, beer, that they just go everywhere.
That's to be a brandy, you have to be wine that's fermented in a whiskey barrel. Is that not right?
That I'm not exactly sure of. That I haven't really dove too deep into. I know that they age a lot of brandy and bourbon barrels, but that specific part of it, I don't know, to be honest with you.
All right, here's my dumb question. Is Hennessy, what is that? Is that a brandy?
That is a cognac brandy. So like how bourbon is to the United States, cognac is to France. It's actually an extremely specific region of France too. So yeah, if it's not made in cognac or the cognac region, it can't be called cognac. If it's not made in the Armagnac region, it can't be made called Armagnac. If it's outside those regions, it's only considered brandy.
Well, is Hennessy made overseas then?
It is in France.
In cognac.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I didn't know. It's crazy in Texas. You don't see a lot of brandy drinkers like. But I'd have guys from up north that would come here.
Oh yeah, Minnesota, Wisconsin,
brandy and Coke. I'm like, what the hell are you doing,
Christian Brothers?
Now the old men that hunt with me, I have an old buddy of mine, good friend of mine. He's in his 70s now, and he always wanted to have an after dinner Cavassier or cognac or somewhere.
I really do appreciate a really good cognac. They're really nice.
Do you have to drink that neat?
Not necessarily. I mean, if you bought it, you could do what you want with it, right?
Yeah.
So
she was pouring it, so I didn't know how I was going to get it.
I think it's neat, or not even neat. I think it's just like a wine, like just in glass, like a sniffer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, typically it's a big snifter, like a brandy snifter. You allow it to open up, and like for, I don't know if you've been to wine country, like the bouquet opens, and then you can really get a bunch of the nuances in it. And it's kind of the same for whiskey, too, in some respects, if you're really wanting to dissect the flavor profiles of it.
So I can't keep up with all that shit since Fred Sanford's off the deal, because I used to know all about Ripple from watching Sanford and Son, and now all the brothers are drinking Hennessy, and I don't understand how that all came about. What made that such a popular rap drink?
That I don't know. I'm not in marketing, so I have no idea.
Somebody hit a home run on that deal.
Yeah, I mean, they just gave me the broom to push in the distillery. That's all.
He's like, shit, just put me in a corner right here.
So I want to get into that, because you talked about like these notes opening up and everything. I enjoy bourbon, but I can't tell you a single note. I can't tell you a single smell. It smells hot. It tastes hot most of the time. But like, people talk about.
That makes me feel better. You said that.
Cherry and apple and cinnamon notes and sugary notes. Right. I don't get any of that. And what am I doing wrong?
So you're just getting the hot?
Well, I mean, I enjoy the taste of bourbon, but I can't tell you the individual notes that are in that bourbon. What am I doing wrong?
Well, it really, with the whole like analyzing, it's known as organoleptic. So the taste and smell of a bourbon, or whiskey or whatever you're drinking, what you're looking for is kind of, how do I explain this? Like, I'll tell you a big note that's in every bourbon that's ever been is vanilla, because you age in oak barrels. There's a lignin that's in it that creates a compound called vanillin. And so that's what's in like your vanilla at your house, that you would make cookies out of. So if you even go into that and you smell it and you get that vanilla, okay, well, at least you know that that's in there. But it's really kind of like working out. The more you do it and the more you kind of discipline yourself to look for these kind of things, the better you get at it.
Right. Yeah, because I see on Bourbon Talk, like they're all like, oh, this has a lot of floral notes, and this has a lot of vanilla, and this has more spice. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I don't get any of that.
and it also helps a lot too when you understand where that flavor comes from. Yeah. Like in the process itself. So the yeast is going to contribute a lot to a lot of the kind of the phenolic compounds that you get that are going to be like in your face kind of deals, like the floral side. Well, you can break that down even further. Like, okay, is it like fresh flowers? Is it like roses? Is it like, whatever, like honeysuckle even, or like, okay, this is supposed to be big fruit notes in this bourbon from this yeast. Well, is that like raspberries? Is that strawberries? Is that like plums? And you can really start breaking it down into the minutia of it, where it gets, pretty out there.
And you probably have to drink it neat, like I don't like, right? To find like all those subtle notes.
Well, it's funny because when we do this in the lab and we're sampling, I know when we would do Blanton's at Buffalo Trace, it would be sometimes 150, 200 samples a day.
Oh my God.
But what you're doing is there's a graduated glass where you would fill the whiskey up to the bottom line, and then you would fill with water to the second line. So it's about 40 proof. Mm-hmm. So about 20% alcohol. And then you let that set so it kind of builds up the aromatics inside the headspace. And then from there, you're able to kind of, you're able to look through that. Now, if you're doing like tasting notes for like a magazine or something like that, or if you're presenting a product, you may want to do it at neat. So, people that are at home that are drinking this neat or on ice or with a little bit of water might be able to see what you see. But then again, it's all subjective too, because some people's palates can see stuff and some people's can't.
Yeah. I just don't have the refined palate. I like mine with some ice. So, I mean, that's usually how I do it. If I'm going to do it, I'll put a couple ice cubes in there and then it kind of waters down as it goes. But yeah, I just don't ever get it. Maybe I just need to like slow down or something. And like you said, it's like working out. Like you just got to start finding some of the smaller notes and then build from there.
Yeah. Now I'm not saying go home and just pound bourbon and, get hammered in your front yard. And, I'm trying to do better.
It's science. It's science. Yeah. So what happened with Buffalo Trace? Like they were everywhere after COVID. Like the popularity of Buffalo Trace just skyrocketed. What happened? Was it all marketing? Was it all people were bored at home with COVID and they're like, hey, I'm going to take up bourbon drinking?
Well, if you were in Kentucky, and I guess it's just the region where everybody's from. Y'all are down in Texas. In Kentucky, I mean, it took off. When I started there in 2014, the thing that was really paying the bills at the time was actually Fireball.
I can see that.
I hired on as a lab tech, and they were running 24/7 operations of Fireball production. But yeah, so as bourbon really started kind of growing, Buffalo Trace was small, like you said. But yeah, through popularity and mostly word of mouth, they grew into a cult grassroots following. And then not up until I would say, 2021 later, 2022, they actually started advertising.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, like the big wins would be like that Yellowstone episode.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, you're gonna, flash Weller 12 that I've seen people kick walkers out from old ladies to get a hold of. And you're gonna show all that, and then the exclusivity of it. Well, just great marketing team that they have there, and a great PR team. Just Sazerac in general, they knock it out of the park.
We have a friend here that his drink is Green Label Weller.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then you couldn't find it anywhere. And the price got jacked up. So he's like, what fucking, he's drinking it since college back in the,
he bought
in the 90s.
Version of drinking Crown.
Yeah. He's like, what the fuck is going on with I can't find my fucking bourbon anymore.
Yeah, because
Weller was actually considered rot gut for the longest time.
Right. That's why he was buying it.
Right. And I'll tell you funny, when I was in the lab, it was right whenever they transitioned from the old squat bottles to the new. But in the squat bottle thing, they had the handles, the 175s, and they used to be the glass handle ones. And they decided to get rid of that because it was like a cost thing. Well, I worked in the complaint department. When that started happening, we were actually getting a lot of complaints from old folks' homes and old people that were saying, you all just don't want old people to drink anymore. I can't even lift this thing. And it's like, golly, Granny, how much Weller are you putting down?
So she was mad because they didn't have the handle on them anymore.
Handle went away.
Yeah, because Jeff, I know you've probably seen the old Jim Beam glass handle.
Yeah.
175s. Yeah, that's what the Wellers used to be in too.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either. It's crazy though, how the old people, little things you don't think about.
And it just pisses them off.
Yeah, and you don't think about how much whiskey them old people drink too. There's a lot of people out there that have a shot of whiskey before they go to bed. I got a friend of mine that's an old rancher, and his grandfather never drank, looked down on everybody that drank, but had a shot of Jack Daniels every night before he'd go to bed because it'd help him sleep. But then he would look down on everybody else that was drinking. They're drinkers. I'm not a drinker. I just, it helps me sleep is all.
Yeah, I mean, my granddad did it every morning at breakfast once he got done, a shot of Ancient Age, 90 proof. And I mean, he lived all the way into his 90s. So I don't know what that's to say, good genes or good habits, but it worked out.
Okay, I'm going to switch this up just a little bit. And I know you're a bourbon guy, but vodka has all of a sudden is the trendy thing now too.
Yeah.
And Tito's is kicking everybody's ass because everywhere you go, it's what kind of vodka do you want? Tito's, okay, which is a Texas product. Where did all this come from all at once? Because 20 years ago, I don't even know if you could find a Texas vodka.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was with kind of the boom of micro distilleries. I know Tito's is a huge brand now, but I know they started out small, and a lot of guys started small. I mean, Tito's is one. I think Deep Eddy is another one down in Texas that started big. I know in Austin you have like Still Austin and Garrison Brothers and TX. I mean, it's all kind of a small grassroots movement sort of deal. But yeah, the vodka thing, I mean, there's two ways to do it. You can either do it from traditional mash to where you basically make like a whiskey type mash or a whole grain, and then you strip it and then you distill it again and again until you hit not just your proof, which it has to be over 190 proof to consider it a vodka or a grain neutral spirit. But then a lot of people keep distilling to try to refine it and make it cleaner and cleaner, because the cleaner you make it, whenever you do cut it down, you're able to, I mean, it just makes a great mixer, really. I mean, that's the primary reason that a lot of people drink it.
Well, it's nuts because Well, as a kid growing up, you heard the Stoli vodka. It was all Russian vodkas or Europeans. Let me go. And then all of a sudden, Texas, where they don't grow any potatoes that I know of, is the vodka capital of the world now.
Right. Yeah, and it's kind of a little bit of a misnomer. There's not a lot of potato vodkas. I know in Europe there you can get quite a few varietals, but a majority of them are grain.
I did not know that.
Yeah, like Belvedere vodka. You've probably seen it before, the real pretty frosted bottle. That's a rye vodka.
So vodka does not have to be made out of potatoes.
Not necessarily, no. It just has to be distilled over 190 proof.
But it started out as a vodka. It was a potato liquor, right?
I believe so. I'm not sure on the exact history of vodka, but I do know that there are vodkas that are made out of that, out of potatoes and other kind of stuff. And then traditionally in America, you see a lot of just grain vodkas.
It's crazy. If you'd have went to a liquor store when I was in high school, at the little amount of different varieties that you had. I mean, there was nothing like it is now. Same with wine. You go to a grocery store, like Michelle goes to we go to a higher end grocery store. We're not Walmart shoppers. I'm not trying to sound snobby. I don't like going to Walmart.
Yes, he is.
We go to United Market Street, which is I like the whole vibe better. But anyways, their wine section in there is as big as a grocery store that I went to as a kid a lot of time. Or Specs, for example. It's amazing the different variety of alcohol that you can buy. Right.
And I mean, it's like, I don't know if y'all have Total Wine and More's down in Texas or not, but I mean, it's full blown dedication to nothing but entertainment for people, like entertaining for parties and wine, beer, and spirits. I mean, it's a one-stop shop.
We have a Specs here.
They have Total Wine in Dallas. That's the closest one.
Andy's going to be going to that in his next stop to Dallas. And he's going to go in there and look at it. Maybe. So you told me earlier that y'all made a living off of Fireball.
Yeah, that was the big money maker for a while.
I find that hilarious that a place like Buffalo Trace, is Buffalo Trace made it?
Well, so it's under the umbrella of Sazerac. So it's an American privately held company. They're out of Metairie, Louisiana. They actually have a lot of ties back to France, and in a cool roundabout way, that company was acquired. I believe it was the original chateau in the Grand Champagne region of France, where they made cannons like for the War of 1812 that went through France or through Louisiana. So it's like a really cool tie back. But yeah, they're based out of Louisiana. They're from the United States. But they have just a massive umbrella of different products. Some you probably wouldn't even have known that they owned.
I would have never put Fireball and Buffalo Trace even close together. But Fireball, that's not a whiskey. That's wine based, right?
They had to rebrand it.
It actually is whiskey based. It's a Canadian whiskey.
Oh, it is? I thought they had to rebrand it because it wasn't.
Yeah, I did too. So because they couldn't sell it on Sundays if it was whiskey.
Right. So they made malt versions of that too. That's where that one kind of problem happened, where a batch that was malt based went to a liquor store. But that's a whole different thing. Everybody can read up on that.
So, see, in Texas, you can't sell hard liquor on Sundays.
Right.
But you could sell Fireball.
If it's the malt.
If it's the malt.
If it's the malt base.
Okay, that's why. I always make fun of a guy that has, you want a whiskey? I'll take a Fireball.
Right. I mean, it's good. I always keep some in my freezer.
Yeah, I put it whenever I had a bottle and drank it with cream soda. Good little drink.
I'm not make fun of it because when I was in college, we used to drink Hot Damn and Coke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if they still, I'm assuming they still make Hot Damn, don't they?
Yep, that's a Jim Beam product, De Kuyper Hot Damn.
Yeah, Hot Damn. I'm telling you, when I was young growing up, and what's the one that's the liquor that tastes like licorice? It used to be made in Yugoslavia, Sambuca.
Well, yeah, that's Greek, but then like
that wasn't Sambuca. It was It was made in Yugoslavia, is what it was, and people don't even know what Yugoslavia actually used to be a country, but
right.
It was their deal, and I had a buddy of mine had one, and it was liquor. It was licorice schnapps, and it tasted about like licorice. It tasted like shit.
Not a licorice guy.
Oh, it was freaking terrible. And then Whose bright idea was it to rebrand Vicks 44 cough syrup into Jägermeister? Because that's the same animal.
I don't know. I just asked the Germans.
I'm a lot older than you, but when I was a kid growing up, we had Vicks 44 cough syrup. I mean, you bought this cough syrup and it came in this glass bottle, and I'm telling you right now, it's Jägermeister. Every time I have had Jägermeister, I'm like, God, it's Vicks 44. When I was a kid, I used to have to take one out of cold. Same kick, same everything. Knock your ass out.
Well, maybe they were onto something there. Maybe Vicks needed a little bit different income stream, diversified. Who knows?
And then whoever come up with the Jaeger bomb, do they still? I'm assuming that's still a big bar drink.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Oof.
Not a fan?
No, I drank one too many of them one night.
A Jaeger bomb?
Yeah, back in the, believe it or not, they actually had Jaeger bomb. Well, we didn't have Red Bull. It was Jägermeister. It was something else that we had when I was younger. It wasn't a Jaeger bomb because we didn't have Red Bull. Because there's Jaeger bombs, Red Bull, and something else with Jaeger. But maybe we just did shots of Jaeger in college. I think that's what it was. Because that wealthy billionaire guy hadn't invented Red Bull yet.
Yeah, boy, he got in on a gold mine with that one, that's for sure.
Jeez, who would ever thought mixing up some horse piss with some other stuff would turn into $1 trillion a year in sales?
Yeah, to go from energy drink to guys trying to fly homemade airplanes into the river. I mean, that's round circle right there.
That's when you got enough money that you got that walking around money. You can do whatever the hell you want because they sponsor anything. There's a chance someone's getting killed. They're putting their fucking logo on it. I'm really surprised they didn't do that for the running of the bulls yet, or maybe they have, like, tied some Red Bull bandanas on people and let them run around in their jock straps. I did see where the guy that jumped out of the air, that went up to space in a balloon and then free falled for like 5 minutes in a parachute. I saw where he died the other day in a some kind of air disaster of some sort.
Yeah, I think I saw that too. Was it a skydiving accident?
Of some sort. I don't know. It might have been one of those suits that they wear where they try to fly into, jump out and then fly and land in an airplane and stuff. Them guys are nuts. I'm telling you right now. I don't like heights anyways. That's some crazy shit. So I'm assuming in the last 50 years, that Bourbon Trail area has just exploded in growth.
Well, it's really funny. I would say not even the past 50 years, because I grew up pretty much coming up here. I would call Nashville home, but we would always visit around in central Kentucky. And I remember when Maker's Mark, it was nothing down there. It was just a little distillery. You know, people were shocked to death that something would be sitting in the middle of what looked like a cattle field. And a lot of these distilleries, I mean, bourbon tourism was not a thing, even into the late 90s and early 2000s. It just really wasn't. I would say you saw the turnaround about 2008 at earliest, and then it's just been exploding ever since.
Was there another time in America's history where bourbon was as popular as it is now?
Yes.
When was it?
And that is kind of the cool ebb and flow of it. So it was post World War II.
Okay.
So you saw a huge boom in whiskey and bourbon whiskey specifically, like from 45 and 46 all the way up until I would say the mid to late 60s. And then it fell off.
Wonder why? What replaced it?
Well, it was oversaturation in the market, from what I understand in bourbon history, that it was just everybody was making whiskey. They were just churning it out. And then the taste changed. Everybody went to gin. Everybody went to vodka. Everybody went to white rum. You know, they just kind of got away from it, and bourbon tanked. That's kind of a dark history where we lost a lot of distilleries, and a lot of distilleries too had to kind of come up with ideas to make money in the meantime because, you know, nobody was buying whiskey.
I think a lot of it plays to do with politics and war. I think when you come back from World War II, everybody, Americana, let's drink bourbon, let's go back. You know, I had a guy in my platoon from Kentucky, and he talked about this shit, and then they drink it, and then they get, you know, and then it kind of goes away and something came out, and then you had the Cuban, the Bay of Pigs, and then rum came around really big and got to be the kind of popular deal, and everybody started going to the Caribbean on vacations, and that's a rum area, and I think a lot of that plays into the broader picture. Speaking of broader pictures, what's going on now with the tariffs? Because the Canadians bought a lot of bourbon. Are they buying bourbon again now? Or are they still boycotting American stuff on their shelves? Do you know?
I haven't really read into it yet. I've been a little busy recently with this whole business thing, but the way that I understand it, whenever the first set of tariff things happened, they pulled all American whiskey and all American liquor off their shelves. And some companies, it was fine because they didn't have much stake in Canada. Some companies it really hurt because of that, them just outright boycotting American whiskey. So the tariffs have put some strains on stuff. Supply chain, it's kind of hurt that a little bit. So yeah, it's a little uneasy time right now for the bourbon industry in and of itself, with the tariffs, and then also with the kind of the general populace, and I would say the normalization now of the beverage industry post-COVID.
That answer your question?
Yes, it does. I have not. My thing with the Canadian deal, which is not hilarious by any means, is that they want to cut. The Canadians have nowhere else to sell their stuff like in America, and then they want to boycott our product. Well, you're not going to get bourbon from anywhere else.
No, you can have bourbon style, but it's not going to be bourbon.
No, and shipping. I mean, so because I read one deal and they're like, well, we can get it from Australia. How much do you think it's going to cost to ship something from Australia to Canada?
Right.
It's going to increase a lot more than a tariff's going to be. I'd always been told that Jack Daniel's is the number one selling whiskey in China.
It's the number one in the world.
Is number one in the world. But for China, you take a ship and you fill it up with Jack Daniel's and you drive from Lynchburg, Tennessee to North Carolina or New Jersey or wherever they put it on a boat to get it across to China. Or if they go to I don't even know how the hell you'd go to China on a boat. I don't know if you go West Coast or East, but it's an expensive shipping. Yeah.
And it's a long shipping too. So, the expense, like you said, you're paying for fuel, you're paying for, they're going to charge fees on the freighters going over. I mean, that's a lot. And then, say, we're going to buy it from the X country, it's like, my gosh, that's even more stuff tacked onto it. So that it's not good.
No, and I just don't know how. But it's funny, these other countries are like, well, we're going to boycott. We don't need the United States. You do need the United States. You need to sell all your products here because we're the most gluttonous country in the world. Mm-hmm. And then if you don't want to drink our whiskey, that's fine. But if we cut off your whiskey coming here, you damn sure ain't going to like it because I'll bet you they sell more Crown Royal in the United States than they do anywhere else.
I would probably say Diageo has a pretty big stake in the U.S. for Crown Royal. I mean, it comes from, I think, 3 different Canadian whiskey distilleries they own up there in Canada. And really, Canadian whiskey is very closely tied to Americana during Prohibition. The Hiram Walker distillery, I believe, is in Ontario. I'll have to remember what city it was in, but what it was Al Capone was going over there and the Purple Gang and everybody else. And they were trying these whiskeys and they were just bringing them straight down the Detroit River and, across the lakes right there and just bringing it straight into the U.S. during Prohibition.
Prohibition was a wild time.
But stupid.
The 18th Amendment was Prohibition, 21st repealed it. And, I've talked to a lot of people and not just, the distilling, but brewing too. And they all feel that Prohibition set back innovation in both brewing, distilling, and winemaking by almost 100 years because of what happened. Like, we're just now starting to get into the research side of stuff to understand what makes it tick and what makes it good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a crazy time.
Can you imagine that raw?
Right, we're going to do away with alcohol. I mean, and it's just sad. I mean, it's kind of sad that we're such a boozy country to where, we propped up the mafia through bootleg liquor.
Did you watch, have you ever seen Boardwalk Empire?
No.
It's a great series, a very good series. They touch on that a bunch because Steve Buscemi's character, his big alcohol in with the mob and everything else, but one of their deals was the last night you could buy alcohol. And they had a big party.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did they really think that it was going to go away? Like, oh, we'll stroke of the pen. We'll just make alcohol disappear. Of course, people are going to start making the shit at home.
All the politicians were drinking
then
anyways.
It got kind of funny in Kentucky because, alcohol and whiskey at the time was considered also a medicine. So you can't just get rid of medicine. It'd be like shutting down all your pharmaceutical manufacturers in the United States. You still need to have some kind of medicine, right?
Right.
So they issued specific medicinal whiskey licenses to only a handful of distilleries in the United States. Buffalo Trace was one of them. Shinley was one. National Distillers, which was now Jim Beam. Then I'm trying to think of who the fourth one was. But anyway, so they basically made medicinal whiskey. So when you went to the doctor, you got like X amount of pint for, this ailment right here. Well, mom was sick, dad was sick, kids were sick, dog was sick, cat was sick. So, yeah, it just still continued. Maybe not to the full-blown level of what they saw in the 50s and 60s, but they were still making whiskey and cranking it out.
Yeah.
If you go to Oklahoma today, you see the same thing because they've got medicinal marijuana. Mm-hmm. You go to one of these small towns and they got 3 dispensaries there, and Dr. Chakalaka Muhammad comes in, and you've got a sprained toe or a hangnail or a cough or you're going bald, and then you need to be on some gummies or something, and we'll give you a prescription for it right now. It's the same.
Or even to the point of like, I just really miss smoking weed. Okay.
Yeah. I got anxiety from not being able to smoke weed.
Yeah, let me write you a prescription for that.
Good enough for me.
But it's the same concept because you're right. It was all medicine at that time is what they were doing. And the politicians are same then as they are today. It's not about it's the rules for then, not for me. They were drinking and having big parties and stuff. Mm-hmm. That just is the stupidest damn idea ever to do away. Can you imagine cutting out liquor right now in this country?
Be about like cutting out weed.
Yeah. Oof. Well, weed now has got a stronghold because you can't put the gypsy back in the bottle. Right. Before it was still frowned upon publicly. Now it's not.
How many people back in the day were like making their own alcohol?
Well, I know my granddad talked about making beer back in the day at his house when he was growing up, and they would throw the beer bottles down in burlap sacks and throw it in the well to keep it cold. And whenever people wanted beer, they would just buy it from him.
Oh, that's crazy.
But yeah, I mean, bootlegging, home brewing and stuff, I mean, it still happened, and revenuers were all about it. What was the movie with Tom Hardy and Shia LaBeouf and all them?
Lawless, one of my favorite movies.
Great show.
Yeah, that was in Virginia. I mean, that was a real thing.
Yeah, real sets of brothers. What was their last name?
Bondurant.
Bondurant. That's a good fucking movie.
It's a very
Anything with Tom Hardy in it's going to be solid, though.
Right.
With Shia LaBeouf, same way.
Yeah. But yeah, and even it's funny in Kentucky, too, with the marijuana thing. I mean, I don't know if you've read the book, The Cornbread Mafia or The Great Bluegrass Conspiracy, but highly, highly recommend both of them. It kind of talks about the actual county where my family was from and, kind of how that tied in. Like you said, kind of the outlaw spirit of that area. So pretty cool reads about the history of Central Kentucky, too.
Matt, last time we had Matt Robertson on, he was talking about the blue people of Kentucky. Have you ever seen any of these blue people?
No, but I went to Eastern Kentucky, and somebody had said that they actually had somebody that was a student there that was one of the blue people. But I've heard of it, haven't seen it myself, don't know a ton about it, but I've heard that it is a true thing.
Yeah, it's all from inbreeding. We looked it up with Maddie, and it's all from these people were basically inbreeding, and it was a hue that after so many generations of kids, they had a blue hue to them. So, I don't know, you got to be careful.
A lot of inbreeding going on there.
Made outside of your bloodlines. So, getting back to bourbon here, you had talked about when Buffalo Trace was hit. Did we talk about the tornado or we talk about the flood?
So that was the tornado. So that was a little before my time. It was some straight line winds that came and it tore the roof off of the distillery there. But no, they just got hit with a big flood. I wasn't there for it. But I've heard the stories from some of my guys there, and it was a bad one. It was the worst that they've ever had there.
Were you ever able to taste any of the bourbon that came from the tornado surviving barrels?
Yeah. Yeah. So we had a sample of it in the lab there, and I got to sample it before. It is different. It is definitely different. Now, the bourbon secondary market, if you have an unopened bottle of it, I think I saw one for $14,000 the other day.
Good God. I was fixing to say it's got to be some kind of collector's.
Yeah.
It's definitely a collector's item. But yeah, it's definitely different. There are some nuances in it.
What do they sell it for to the first market?
Well, like, how would you even find it?
Well, I mean, naturally, it would just be at a liquor store for MSRP. But then a lot of liquor stores, if it's not required by the government, that they can't mark up to, like, I think it's only, I can't even remember what Ohio is, but they have a specific rule that, like, they cannot mark up the price of a bourbon, even though it's like this popular amount. And then same with control states that have ABC liquor stores. But, where you would normally find it, it would just be a liquor store for MSRP.
So who's making all the money then? The secondary market's making all the money on this all these
It's
Buffalo
E.H. Taylor.
Trace, or what is it?
E.H. Taylor is the one that I'm looking at here.
But the secondary
8,200.
market's where all the money's coming from.
Yeah, and I mean, it's pretty tongue in cheek. It's not legal, the kind of long and short of it. Now, there are some legalities that can be done. I know in the state of Kentucky, there's an old and dusty's law to where you can buy vintage bourbons and still be able to sell them by the drink. I'm not sure about retail. It could be retail as well. But, you can get like a bottle of, say, Country Club 14-year-old for, and sell it to somebody for like $300-$400 or whatever. And it costs you, dug their granddad's liquor cabinet back in the day.
I'd like to know where you could buy some of that stuff for $200 and sell for $14,000 a barrel or bottle now. That's crazy.
And you run across it too. Like I remember when I first started in the industry, I was at Willett, and they had like some 24-year-old wax top that was sitting out there, and it's like, man, I don't know how anybody would want to pay $500 for a bottle of bourbon. And then you look, and it's 5 digits. Another 10 years down the road, and you're just like, well, that was stupid.
What? Speaking of overpriced, or let's just go right to it. The Netflix special about the guys that stole from Eagle Rare.
Yeah, from Buffalo Trace. Yeah,
are those guys still around?
Yeah. Toby, Kurt Singer, I know him very well. I consider him a friend of mine. It was funny because I had just started in the lab, and he was a processor at the time, and he had brought me samples up prior to all that happening. I think on a Monday he had brought me samples and everything, and then Tuesday it was like the talk of the town, like, oh my God, did you see they got him in handcuffs? He's been on the news. And sure enough, on the news, and big old bunch about this heist and this and that and the other. It's like, oh, wow, man, that's close to home.
So how much, see, when I watched that, what's the name of that show?
Don't remember.
Heist. Great series on Netflix. Really enjoyed it. Everything was interesting. The bourbon one was the best. But what got me was, how the hell do you not miss a barrel of whiskey? I mean, do they make that many barrels that they don't even notice?
So the barrels part came from Wild Turkey, where they were taking those from, but they, I think, gave plausible deniability to that one, that it went away or not. But with the heist portion of it, I mean, to be quite honest, the bourbon industry up until I would say 2015 or 2016, a lot of it was by honor code. I mean, that it was just like, okay, like, you're going to do the right thing and you're not going to take all this stuff. And, security was fairly minimal, and, it was just something that was taken advantage of.
It just blew my mind because, and you're right, when you think of people working for you, you don't think of them stealing from you. I don't think of my guides ever stealing, or the ladies that work here. But I think I would notice if we missed a big portion of something, and that's what I couldn't get over, is that they're still in barrel, because at first it was just bottles. Then they started stealing barrels of whiskey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and inventories have gotten a lot better now with technology increasing, because like a lot of lot of barrel inventory done back in the day was from the old steel trap from a lot of people.
Right. Or pen and
it wasn't
paper.
uncommon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't uncommon for, you'd be pulling out of one rick and you look back in there and said, oh shit, this is like a 16-year-old barrel. We missed this one. I believe that's how Jim Beam did the decanters back in the day as well.
They just missed the barrel?
Yeah. So to kind of show how everybody's like profiles and tastes changed over the years, most whiskeys were consumed from that 3 to 6 year age mark back, when bourbon was kind of in its heyday and on the decline part of it. Well, they would find these super aged barrels that were 13, 15, 20 years old. And they're like, well, we can't sell this in a product. So we'll just put these inside of decorative decanters.
Mm. Boy, I remember those. Ducks Unlimited.
Yeah, I have a Ducks Unlimited one upstairs right now.
Do you have the Elvis one ever? Did you ever see one of those?
No, I want one just because of the George Jones song, though.
I'm telling you, those were huge, man. The Elvis decanters. Because I remember that. My dad was quite the drinker, so I went to the liquor store as a kid many, many times. Knew the guy really well. And they had, another fireman owned the liquor store, so we'd go there and they'd have the Elvis decanter, and that shit was like $100, $200 in the 70s and early 80s is what they were.
Yeah. But it was considered decoration, right? Because, the liquor in it wasn't going to be any good to some people. But, yeah, I mean, some of those decanters, especially if you find them full, are worth a lot of money nowadays.
Okay, my next dumb question, I got a lot of them on this. Kentucky Deluxe is the very poor man's bourbon. If do they still sell it, or Old Crow?
Kentucky Deluxe, I think, is a blended whiskey. So it's made with either bourbon or corn whiskey, and then vodka is added to it. Ooh. And then they color it down. So
wow.
It's deluxe.
God almighty, it sounds terrible.
And then for the Old Crow, I believe that is a Beam label. They still make it. You can find it at a liquor store.
Well, I'm not going to buy any of it, but my question was, some of these cheap whiskeys are made by some of these expensive whiskeys company. Do they do stuff to make it cheaper? Or is it just another bottle that they just make? Because the cost input for making an Old Crow compared to Jim Beam probably isn't much difference, is it?
Well, yeah, but then you have to think about how long it's aged for and proof and, what it is, because there are some diamond in the roughs. Like, I can actually distinctly remember whenever Buffalo Trace stopped making ancient age. With Buffalo Trace, it was a 10-year-old at 90 proof, and it was competing with Eagle Rare, and they got rid of it. But, so what they did with that is just like, they were taking that 10-year-old ancient age, and they were selling it for like $13 a fifth.
Right.
And that was like supposedly, like the cheap stuff. And same with Weller. And, it's not necessarily that like cheap whiskey is bad or cheap bourbon is bad. It's just, it's cheap.
So the storage or the aging process is the difference, but the cost input is about the same except for the aging and storage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then it's an allocation thing, like what is the life of this barrel going to do? When we put it in a barrel, we're going to dedicate X amount of percentage to this product line. It's going to get pulled at 3 years. Well, then this amount of percentage is going to keep going. And then at this year is going to go into this product. And this year it goes into this product. And then the ones that really survive to the end are the ones you see like the 25-year-old whiskeys that are just going for oodles of money.
I don't watch any regular TV, so I don't see commercials much anymore. But I haven't seen a beer commercial in months, since last Super Bowl probably.
Yeah, which I did really like the Shane Gillis and Post Malone one. I got a good kick out of that.
Which one? The one where you're not supposed to drink on camera?
That was the one where they're like having the ultimate parties where they have like the go-karts and stuff like that, and they're grilling out.
Yeah.
But you don't see beer commercials like you used to.
Not like you used to. Anheuser-Busch was really churning them out there with the frogs and all that stuff too.
Well, I remember Taste Great, Less Filling. Those were the best commercials back in the day.
Now it's all pharmaceutical commercials.
Yeah, it's all hard dick medicine.
How long is Ancient Age aged? How many years?
3 years typically.
3 years on it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how much is that going for a bottle right now?
You get the 90 proof. Depends where you go. I've seen as low as $10 and as high as 15.
Wow.
But like, if you're gonna mix it, it's not bad, right? Like
No.
if you're gonna make a whiskey drink or something.
Yeah, if you just want a whiskey and Coke, it's great for that. And that's what I think is the beauty of like these bigger bourbon companies, especially, is that they have the full portfolio.
Right.
Whether it be Jim Beam, Brown-Forman, Sazerac, Heaven Hill, whoever, they have the full gambit. Like if you're just wanting something to mix on, you can grab you just some cheap Jim Beam white label and that. But like if you really want to celebrate, have a good time, they have old granddad's 16-year-old. So, you have this full spectrum that's going to go to your full, like clientele, whatever they may want.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Because you don't want to, you get an expensive bottle of bourbon. You don't want to put that in your whiskey sour or anything like that.
No, you would want to refrain. But there actually was a bar in Louisville that got their Sazerac allocation pull. This has been years ago, but they turned their Pappy allocation into Jell-O shots.
Oh, God.
Pretty funny. To me, it's like, well, you bought it, and you were given this, but man, that's rough.
So, whenever you started with Buffalo Trace, what was a bottle of Pappy going for? Because now it's crazy money.
Well, yeah. The MSRP is still very fair for that entire product line if you could find it at price. Now, a lot of people are going to listen to this and say, well, where in the hell are you finding this for price?
Yes.
Sometimes you can luck out. If you just bebop into some mom and pop, liquor store in the dead center of Kansas while you're hunting, you might be able to be like, oh God, there's a Pappy 10-year-old, which that's happened to me before. But, if you get the stuff for MSRP, it's really kind of fair. Like the 10-year-old, I think is like $50. And then the 23, I think, is the really expensive one, is like $400 now. But when it started out, it was $200 whenever I started there.
I thought they were paying like $1,500 for a bottle of Pappy.
Well, yeah, that's typically a secondary market.
Oh, I got you.
So these places get allocated 3 bottles.
Yeah.
And the guy that's the big bourbon connoisseur in that town tells that guy, listen, when you get them bottles in, you call me or I want them and I'll give you extra amount or whatever it is.
Right. There's a lot of that favoritism gets played at a lot of liquor stores.
And then the guy takes one bottle home and then he sells the other 2 on the secondary market for $1,000. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, typically that happens a lot. Also, too, they could just buy them all and just say, you know what, I'm keeping all these.
I saw where there's a guy went to a bar, I think it was in D.C. or somewhere, and they were allocated a dozen bottles a year. And he said that they had basically an auction at the bar that night. I got 12 bottles here. I'm not selling it by the drink. I'm selling it by the bottle. And they're not supposed to do that. But they sold it for a couple of $1,000 a bottle. They had $1,000 tied up in 12 bottles and they sold them for $12,000 to $20,000 that night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It depends on like what licensing you have. I know in Kentucky you can have a package license and sell like say it's a restaurant and they do a single barrel pick. Well, they can have their package license to sell not just by the drink, but then, if you want to take home the single barrel, if you liked it so much, here's how much a single barrel is.
So what's the difference in single barrel and straight from the barrel whiskey bottles?
Just how it's processed. So like, take like a Blanton's that you would find on the shelf, like a regular old Blanton's 93.
Yeah.
That one has been chill filtered. It's been cut down to 93 proof. And then it's, been bottled and it's sitting on the shelf. That's the typical, but then you see like Blanton straight from the barrel. And this is just an example. It's like, it's dumped. They take the proof of it, whatever the proof is, that's what it's going to be. They just use a little filter to just take out the big chunks and like the big particulate. And then it goes straight in the bottle after that. And it's just going to be what it's going to be.
So single barrel, it's at a proof that they're going to get it to the proof that they want it to. Straight from the barrel, it's got some variability.
Yeah. If you're saying like barrel proof, or like straight from the barrel and stuff like that. It depends on the distillery. Some of them will put a cap on it to where it's like, okay, it's 125, it's 120, it's 110, whatever it may be. But then there's some, it's just like we're handwriting these labels, or we have a printer that we can type in and say, this is what the barrel proof is. And, some of those you'll see, I think it was Jack Daniels, the Coy Hill was like close to 160 proof. Mm-hmm. 80% alcohol. So It was pretty hot.
Where's your cutoff on that, on the proof? Like where do you get to, where do you transition to like, this is just, it's too hot now?
It really depends on what your palate is good for. I know for a while I've really enjoyed the super high, like 130, 135.
Oh, wow.
Because what happens with that when you don't filter that whiskey and it's straight from the barrel at that proof, the fatty acids from the aging process stay in liquid form. And whenever you try that, you're going to have a lot like bigger body and a lot more velvety, buttery in a way consistency from that whiskey. Now, the first couple of drinks are going to be pretty hot, but once your palate acclimates to that, it lasts forever on like your palate. It's a really, really good experience. But myself anymore, I'd say 120, 125 would be about my cutoff. I like 100 proof whiskey typically if it's every day.
So 100 proof if it's every day, 120 is kind of where you tap out at.
Yeah, and then, I don't frown on 90. I mean, 90 is, pretty well a lot of whiskeys in the industry are 90s, so.
Yeah. That's a fun thing about bourbon collecting is like, it's like an Easter egg hunt for adults. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like you walk into a liquor store and you're like, all right, let's see what we're going to find today.
Yeah, right.
Half the time I don't find anything.
No, say what?
Half the time I don't find anything. I did, like I was talking to you, I don't know if we had started rolling or not, about finding the bottle of Blanton's in Memphis. So they had that, and down here, you don't really see bottles of Blanton. You don't see bottles of E.H. Taylor. You really don't see a whole lot of Weller where we are. So walking in there, I was like, holy shit, they got everything.
Right. Yeah, which, you get to the bigger cities in Texas, like the Dallas and Fort Worth and, Austin's and stuff like that. You normally will start seeing the allocations go up for some of those. It's just however the distributor is able to bring them out into the other ones.
Right. So how did you get your start in this? I mean, they had a flyer out and you took the job or what?
It's funny because I originally went to college for forensic science and death investigation because I'm kind of a gun nut. I like guns and shooting and hunting, if you can see that.
Yep.
And so I wanted to go into that. So I ended up getting a degree in chemistry and one in forensic science and started looking into police jobs, investigative jobs, forensics jobs. And I applied everywhere from Nevada to Maine, probably 200-300 different resumes out. And I wasn't getting any bites. I was getting really frustrated. And one day I said, to absolute hell with it. Distilleries need chemists. I'll do this until a job pops up. And so I then was just mad, and I started emailing. I found the emails of the CEOs of like major bourbon, distilleries and producers. And, I'm just like, here I am. This is what I did. I need a job. What do you got? And then I sent one to Sazerac to Mark Brown. And 5 minutes later, he shot me back a link. He's like, yeah, we got to open and go ahead and apply. I'm like, oh, God. Well, he called my bluff. And so long and short, ended up getting the job. I was actually driving back from pheasant hunting in Nebraska, me and my little brother, and I got the call that I got the job. And then December of 2014 is when it all kind of started.
That's badass, though. You never know where you're going to end up. You know what I mean?
No.
Are you glad that it didn't work out as a forensics investigator?
Say what?
Are you glad that it didn't work out with the police department now?
Yeah, with kind of the climate of how everything, is gone in the world, as unfortunate as it is, I'm blessed with how it's all fallen for me. And honestly, I used a lot of the methods and methodology that I took in my forensics classes in my troubleshooting of distillery equipment. and the process.
So now with your new job, you're just, like you said, these companies will call you out, and basically for any problem that they have, you have a solution, or try to find one at least?
Yeah, dig into it. So, like, I mean, it could be a thing like, hey, like, we're noticing, like, our times are slipping on our cooks. What can we do? Or, like, hey, is there any improvements that we could do to our process? We're noticing inconsistencies in our white dog, or we're noticing, inconsistent fermentations and this and that. And what I would do is go in, and I would just want to set for a couple, 3 days, and go through every part of it. Just basically be like the silent worker on the side that's watching all these processes go through, and then also get the numbers of like, okay, this is how much water, backs up, yeast, grains you're adding. This is what you're milling to, and just break down their entire operation in front of me, and then just look for any kind of nuances in there that could be affecting them in a good way or a bad way.
That's crazy. That's crazy that there's just so much science that goes into this, but it's big business now.
Yeah. And, I tell people a lot of times, like, they're like, it's really, a lot in bourbon. I'm like, there's a guy in the hills of West Virginia that's running this shit through a car radiator right now. It's as complex, or it's as nuanced and scientific as you want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just crazy to think, like, you got all these old guys back in the 1800s or whenever. And like E.H. Taylor, for example, like, he didn't have all this shit that we have now. And he was doing just fine.
Right. It was the pearls of wisdom under granddad's hat kind of deal.
Right.
And you had some pretty big innovators like, Doc Crow from Old Crow. He was the one that introduced sour mashing into the process, because bourbon all the way up until him was all done by a sweet mash.
And sour mash, what's the difference?
So what it is you're taking a portion of what you have distilled before. It's killed all the yeast. It's stripped all the alcohol out of it. So what you have is just like a sour slurry. And there's what a lot of distilleries do is they'll, at the back end of their beer still, is run it over a screen box. They collect the thin portion of it, which is just like your dead yeast cells, the sour, more or less the water part of it. And then the stillage goes out, and then that goes into back end processing, whether into cattle feed as DDG, slop, or wet cake, but that's a whole different thing. But what you're doing is you're taking that thin stillage and you're adding it to your cooking process and your fermentation process. And it does a twofold thing. For one, with all the dead yeast cells and all of the nutrients that are built up in it, you're creating a really good environment for your yeast to thrive in, to consume those sugars and make alcohol. And the other part of it is you're lowering the pH to where there's no other organic bacteria that can get in to stress the yeast. So if you have happy yeast, you have good whiskey. If you have stressed yeast, you're going to have stressed whiskey, long and short. So
right. That's just freaking crazy.
Didn't you say earlier that to be a bourbon, you could not mix it with anything else?
Yeah, no flavoring additives.
How do they have like the Jim Beam? Didn't they have like a honey, American honey or
so
something?
That's considered flavored whiskey.
Okay, it's not bourbon then, it's a flavored whiskey then. Okay,
correct. Correct.
So bourbon can be nothing but bourbon. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's like, you can have finished bourbon. So like, I don't know if you're familiar with Angel's Envy.
Yes.
So they do a majority of theirs in port wine barrels. So they'll take the bourbon out at a certain age, and then they'll age it for an additional however long in a port wine barrel, and then they bottle it from there. So you can call it, say port wine finished bourbon, or rum barrel aged finished bourbon, or tequila barrel aged finished bourbon. So that's a whole other sector as well.
How does the guy that's this taster at the deal, how's he drive home every night?
Well, the majority of us spit it all out. Actually, like over, I believe it's like in Scotland and Europe, if I'm not mistaken, they're like required to live within a certain area so that they can actually be taxied as part of like their pay. They had to be taxied to work and back.
You got to be able to stumble home.
Yeah, yeah. Just keep her between the ditches is all you got to do.
I saw a guy that was I watched a show not long ago. It was a documentary on the coffee business, and it showed a guy that was a coffee taster. I thought that would be a miserable freaking job. He would take it, swish it around, and spit it out, and he would do like 20 cups on a turnstile deal, and he'd taste every one of them and write something down. Then he'd go the next, and all day long, that's what he did. And I thought, God, that would suck.
You got to like blow out your palate.
That's how you have to do single barrels. I know doing that with Blanton's, and it's my brother's favorite bourbon, and he's like, "Man, you just don't drink it." I'm like, "Man, once you ate enough Oreos, you don't really want Oreos at the end of the day, man."
So you're not looking for Blanton's if you go to a liquor store.
Well, it is a great bourbon. It's a fine bourbon. I've approved a lot of them, but myself, I've had about enough.
Do you have the whole collection of tops at your house now? Yeah,
they're somewhere. They're somewhere around here, in and amongst everything.
Yeah. I've had Angel's Envy before, and I've read on the bottle finished in port wine. What's the appeal to finishing it in a port wine barrel?
Well, I mean, it's something different. It's kind of like a different taste profile, and a little bit something different. Because I mean, they've done everything from amber wood finishes to different types of oak finishes, double oaked bourbons. I mean, they've done a lot of different ones, and it's just something different to try for bourbon. I think it's pretty interesting, keeps it pretty, relevant.
Is double oak too much oak?
It just depends. If you let it set in there too long, it definitely will. I mean, there's some, experiments that I've got to try before, and it's just like, oh my God, this is like consuming a toothpick. Like it can get extremely astringent, especially like the super old bourbons where they get kind of like, I want to say it's like an old musty kind of sour wood flavor to them.
What do you do with it then? Just chunk it? This shit's ruined.
Well, there's two ways it can go. It can get blended off into like a larger product, or if it's bad enough and it's like, no, this would probably compromise the flavor of what we're going to be putting it into, and that unfortunately has been the case. It's like, we'll just send it off and have it destroyed, which that means it's turned into racing fuel.
Sell it to the racers?
Yeah, there's a company, I can't remember their name, out of Louisville, but they brominate it and run it through a vacuum seal, get it to 200 proof, and it's used as a fuel additive for dragsters.
No shit.
That's what you're putting in your system. I've always thought that when you see like the old westerns and the guy comes in from riding in the plains, that's how bad water was back then. That whiskey was the better thing to drink. Because I just don't know how anybody drinks a shot of whiskey and goes, "Ooh, that's really good for that quenches my thirst."
Yeah, it doesn't quench the thirst. It'll definitely warm you up and wake you up, though.
Yeah, it will do that for sure. Can you imagine the rock gut that they drank in the 1700s, especially? Like I was just reading that Old Crow, Ulysses S. Grant drank that. That was his whiskey of choice.
That was Doc Crow back, because he was around, I think, in the 1850s was when he was really relevant. But yeah, he drank Old Crow. That is true. But yeah, I mean, bourbon's been as part of like the United States as it has been for anything. I mean, I'm actually looking at the date right here for Buffalo Trace. On its site has been documented that there's been distillations done there since 1780s, like the end of the 1780s. And I think the only other distillery that's older than that is Laird's Brandy Distillery up in Pennsylvania.
I wonder I'm assuming back in the day they drank a lot of ale and they drank a lot of wine. Madeira wine was the big wine back then. But I wonder when they started when they started making whiskey over here. I wonder how long it took before the Europeans wanted our whiskey. Well,
I mean, they already kind of were doing that with the Scots-Irish, whenever they began settling. And I believe that it was, if you could plant I forgot how many acres of corn and build a cabin. We'll give you the 100 acres around it. And that was kind of like their incentive to push them west into, Bourbon County, Virginia, which is now Kentucky, and all that, and Tennessee and the mountains and all. And, they're building this. Well, what do you do with 40 acres worth of corn, right?
Yeah,
Can't eat
true.
it. Can't eat it. So what they did is what they did best over in Scotland and Ireland. What they did with barley and rye is distill it.
And the Indians had never, ever gotten a taste. They never did any kind of fertilization. They had some kind of wine, beer that they made, right? But I don't think the Indians ever made any kind of whiskey.
No, because that
sugar.
The history of whiskey, I believe, goes all the way back to Catholic monks. I forgot what group of them, but they took perfume stills from their missions out in the Middle East, and they began, running their beers and stuff through it, and they figured out that they actually can make a pretty good drink out of it. And I think that was like back in the 1400s.
But you got to have sugar and you got to have yeast to make bourbon, right?
Yeah, the sugar's derived from your grains. So, corn being the primary, and then you have flavoring grains of either wheat or rye, and then you have malted barley, which barley is more used for its enzymes than it is for a flavoring agent, typically.
Where did they get yeast from?
So the yeast, really, it's just kind of from brewing. You can actually harvest yeast from just about anywhere. It's in the air. It's all over the place. If you leave a petri dish out for long enough, you probably could end up picking up yeast cells from it and ferment with it.
That'd be interesting.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either. Because I always wondered how they made the old stuff without all the ingredients. So all you needed was sugar. Not sugar. All you needed was corn and water and some other kind of barley or something to make a whiskey at first.
Right. Yeah. Because, in the process that we do in mashing, which is cooking of the grains, what we're doing is we're trying to break all of those big starch molecules, which starch molecule is just a big old chain of sugars. You're trying to break that down into simpler sugars for the yeast to be able to process it.
That's crazy. Crazy that we figured it out.
Yep.
We love it. Even monkeys will try to ferment some shit.
Right.
Goes back a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah, because if you want to even get back into like the cultures that have been making beer and wine, I don't know if you're familiar with the micro brewery. Well, it's not really micro anymore. Dogfish Head. They're from Milton, Delaware.
Oh yeah.
There was a guy. His name was Dr. Oh gosh, it was Patrick. I want to say it was McGovern. But he was an analytical chemist, and he worked with the guy from Dogfish Head, and they were taking fermentation vessels from these ancient, societies. So, from Mesopotamia, from ancient China, from, everywhere else in the world, and they were able to break down by chemical chromatogram what was in those fermentation vessels. And then from there, doing a little bit of historical research, was able to make beers out of different recipes that were found on those fermentation vessels from thousands of years ago.
Wow. Yeah, I'm looking it up right here.
Which place is that?
Dogfish Head?
Dogfish Head.
That's a
Northeast
brewery, right?
Yes.
That's brewery in Milton, Delaware.
They also have one in Portland, and where'd we just stay at? Bridgerton. Wherever I stayed at in Maine, Bridgerton, Maine, I believe was the name of it. They have one. It was right across the river from us. Our house was there. It was across the way. It's an old lumber yard that they've done. They make sour beers, a lot of them too.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's another type of fermentation that's called lacto fermentation is a lot of times. So lactobacillus, which is a natural occurring bacteria. And that's kind of whenever you see like farmhouse ales or anything like that, it's just using natural bacteria and yeast from the environment or using cultures that were captured that way.
I'm not an IPA fan. I think Dogfish makes a lot of IPAs.
They do make a lot of IPAs. They do make some other really good stuff too. I don't mind IPAs. That's not my go-to though.
It's too hoppy for me.
Yeah, a little bit too much of a good thing.
Well, like drinking Pine Sol sometimes.
That's
right.
That's the place, though.
Is it? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we went to one of their breweries. It was right across the river from our house. You could see it, and you could be sitting on it, and it was a really cool deal. But I had some sour beer at Cornell University, whatever it is. It's in Lebanon, New Hampshire. We went to there one time, and I had one, and it was a sour beer. And it was pretty good. And I'm not a big beer guy, but it was better than drinking. The IPAs taste terrible, and I'm not a beer guy anyway. So, anyways, it's pretty interesting. Well, hey, man, we appreciate you being on here, Dylan. This has been very educational to us.
I know what to look for in my next bourbon.
Absolutely. Well, hey, thanks for having me on. I've been a long-time listener, but I'm glad to be a first-time guest.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you being on here. Like I said, we appreciate you listening to us, and we appreciate you being on here. We love anybody that's got a story. I have people reach out to me all the time. Hey, I know someone. If you know someone that's interesting, reach out to me. And if it don't work out, it don't work out. If they're really good interest, people want to hear something different. Nobody wants to hear people talk about setting up a goose spread every day. So we love having new people on doing stuff. And Dylan, we appreciate you. Hope you have a great season. Have a great year. God bless you, my friend, and thank you for being on with us.
And thank you too. Y'all have a great season this year.
All right, thank you so much.
Bye.
See ya.
Very interesting guy.
That's right.
I learned a lot of things. I learned that next time I buy a bottle of bourbon to keep in the house, I need to buy cheap bourbon because I'm mixing it with Coke anyways. It don't make any difference.
Right.
So all you guys that come over and drink my high dollar stuff, you're done.
All over with.
Yep.
All right. Let's get out of here.
Thank you for listening to us. God bless y'all. Have a great week. Remember, go check out Ducks Unlimited. All kinds of cool giveaways and stuff. Or not giveaway, all kind of raffles and stuff. Raise some money for the Ducks. We need the Ducks. Thank you. God bless you. Have a great day. Bye.
Watch for deer.